Good morning. This is Bob from BBD with news with views. Some reporting that needs some analysis. There's one written by Nicholas Papahits and Susan Fraser from Athens. It talks about EU holds urgent talks on Greece-Turkey dispute. Athens seeks backing from bloc commitment to political sanctions as Ankara stakes claim on drilling rights in Eastern Mediterranean. On the back of this, the French have also sent 2 fighter planes to the region. Interesting times for it, but you know the central issue is the same as Xi. This is land grab, property grab by his pea of the same pot, Erdogan. Erdogan, I think, is trying to punch way above his weight. His economy is in shambles. His internal situation is in shambles, and I'm not sure whether his attempt to gain legitimacy in the Islamic world is going to do anything but split it in two. The other obviously big issue is the geopolitical earthquake just hit the Middle East. Is an article by Thomas L. Friedman. The important parts that obviously it's about the deal between the UAE and Israel, which has been actually in the works for a fairly long time. But what he says is this deal will certainly encourage the other Gulf sheikdoms, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, all of which have had covert and overt business and intelligence dealings with Israel, to follow the Emiratis' lead. They will not want to let the UAE have a leg up in behind, able to marry its financial capital with Israel's cyber technology, agriculture technology and healthcare technology, with the potential to make both countries stronger and more prosperous. Herein lies a tale for India too. India has a great relationship with both. India should be in the middle and be part of this triangle, for sure. United Arab Emirates, Israel and India. We need the same technologies as these guys, okay? Then he says, and he rightly says, the big geopolitical losers are Iran and all of its proxies. Hezbollah, the Iraqi militia, Syrian President Bashar Assad, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis in Yemen and Turkey. For us, it is important to note the two big losers that our guys keep talking about and think that they are geopolitical heavyweights and strategic problems for us: Iran and Turkey. Iran, ladies and gentlemen, is at this point of time, I think we got to play it cool. We don't really have to go overboard thinking that they're jumping on the ship with China. They're going to achieve really nothing, zilch, by jumping in with China at this point of time. And what he says very succinctly is, but this deal is right in Iran's face. The tacit message is, we now have Israel on our side, so don't mess with us. Yeah, that's a message for Iran. And look at what Iran is doing. It's like while Israel and UAE launch direct phone links after accord, Iran threatens to attack UAE. Well, I guess that's all they can do, right? People who are not happy with it, obviously, as Joseph Cross reports, Palestinians say Israel-UAE deal hinders Middle East peace. I, on the other hand, think it will probably encourage and set the tone for Middle East peace. I think that this is not going to be a hindrance in any way. Iran obviously continues with its tone. Emiratis made huge mistake with Israel deal. Iran president. I think if the Iranian president, on the other hand, has been caught with his I would say pants down at this stage, I think, because I don't think he didn't think this was going to ever happen, and now that it's happened, it's kind of really put a lot of forces against him. Now let's get on some other news, and this is exciting news. Headlines in Hindustan Times: India eyes global front runners in vaccination plan. Like I said yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, we are ideally placed for this, whether it's the AstraZeneca through the Oxford or our own vaccines. We have the necessary ecosystem to be able to be part of the world distribution system, production system, besides being able to vaccinate our own people. We should forget about the vaccine coming out of either China or Russia. They're of no use at this point of time. Another thing that is really, really good is what you have 4G services restored in 2 J&K districts on a trial basis. I hope this is extended to J&K, entire J&K, sooner the better. In fact, Ladakh and those areas should get it. If they haven't gotten it, should get it immediately. And as we push our way through into the global supply chains, we have another nice, interesting news in the Economic Times, which says Samsung likely to move part of smartphones production to India. So now that's on the back of Apple. India should have no hindrance, offer special facilities to countries and companies belonging to countries that are trustworthy and are something that we can work with, unlike China. This is something that I've been saying for a long time. There is an article by Ajit Burman in Ecotimes that says Greenco frontrunner to buy NEC US unit. Hyderabad-based Greenco, backed by Singapore's GIC and Abu Dhabi's Investment Authority, has emerged as the frontrunner to acquire US-based large-scale battery installer NEC Energy Solutions. I had said earlier, India needs to become part of the United States ecosystem for solar power, and especially if the Democrats win, it will, and alternative energy comes back into play. I think it'll pay India big time if Indian companies have stakes in companies in the United States in a big way. I had mentioned earlier, Mauritius critical, oil spill, India should be there. I wasn't seeing any news item, but I'm glad today I've seen something in the HT correspondent which says India sends tech team to contain Mauritius oil spill. Just do remember, when you look at the landscape of the Indian Ocean, you'll certainly find Mauritius is absolutely very critical for a strategy that I call V plus or Go plus or V2. And the love fest for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris continues, as Yashwant Raj writes. Joe Biden pledges closer ties with India, fairer H1B norm. That will be music to India's ears. And similarly, Indrani Bagchi writes, Biden's I-Day show reaffirms US-India's partnership. That's fantastic. You know that there is really going to be no change, except you will hear a lot of noise on the principles of democracy, but that has to be expected. You can't change that, and that in no way should be associated with the way the Democrats are thinking about the strategic relationship with India. On the other hand, you see things going wrong with the China in the Pacific Islands, where there is an article by Nathan Vander Clip, which writes, Papua New Guinea calls Huawei built data center a failed investment. Report commissioned by government says facility final layout different and includes security gaps. So basically, China was again trying to outreach and get into this Pacific Islands, the Solomon Islands, and they were convinced, if you remember, I think the Solomon Islands, to break relationships with Taiwan. But I think that they really are overstretching this, and I think that any country that is essentially democratically principled will find the blowback from the people is going to be too strong, because Chinese generally tend to be extremely overbearing and extremely meddling in the policies of their host governments. Jai Hind.